Back live here at Anglesey for the second and final race of the day for the Maximum Networks Volkswagen Racing Cup, incorporating the Goodyear Touring Car Trophy and TCR UK. And if you found the earlier race exciting, then this time around we switch the top six so that Bruce Winfield, who took her first win of the season early on today, has to start right in the middle of the pack, and that will put Jack Constable, I make it, onto pole position. Cars are already out on the grid and preparing or being prepared by the teams. Weather conditions, well, it was beautifully sunny, half an hour or so ago. It's clouded over a little bit since then, and that means that, not tyre choice will be in question, but certainly pressures, I would think, and how these cars will develop over what is an extended race distance as well, 25 minutes rather than the 20. It's not Jack Constable on pole position. Bradley Kent, in fact, will start from pole alongside Hugo Cook, who had a really good race earlier today, defending from Brad pretty much all the way. And I mentioned the word refreshing earlier today, Paul O'Neill, because I feel like that's what this weekend has been, with lots of new names towards the sharp end.
Yeah, definitely. And Bruce getting his first win this weekend is just great stuff for Area Motorsport. And yeah, like you say, it's been good to see those guys up the front. Dan Kirby, who I was speaking to on an interview, he was just telling me, he was just getting on with things, still learning the car, learning the trade. But got to say, he starts P3. He had a third place in the earlier race, so he could get more points and really cement that top three in the championship. Which, as he starts to chip away, you never know, he could knock on the door of second place. So Bradley Kent on pole, who didn't show massive amounts of speed. There's only been the Max Hart car that's really had any speed, maybe in the Hyundai hands. So I'm gonna really be interested to see how this goes, because Hugo Cook was super fast in that other race as well. So a lot of things to look for. Bruce Winfield down there in sixth. I think he'll get a rocket ship start. And yeah, Jack Depper as well in the TCR Golf. I think he's got some things to say. So I think there's a lot going on here as we see those guys at the back. I think somebody who hasn't made the grid, and I'm not surprised, was Danny Crivet. That car had lots of oil up the side of it when I last seen it, and they had a big problem in race one as well.
Yeah, that's a shame, because he had been going very strongly. Qualified the car, his best qualifying performance of the season, in third, and stayed there for a good while. But then I remember he ran wide, I think, coming out of the second corner at the banking, and then never really recovered those positions. When you consider that this is round 11 of the championship, so we've had 10 races already, and I'm grateful to Phil Kinch for this stat. From those 10 races, 7 different winners so far. That's not bad, is it? I mean, we always know that this category of racing that includes TCR cars, it's always going to be close. But lots of different circuits along the way. You had the triple header at Brands Hatch. Of course, you were out with Andy McEwen. 2 races last time out in the middle of July at Alton Park. And Bruce Winfield became a 7th different winner of the season. Could
we have an 8th Hugo Cook?
Why not?
Why not? Yeah, I mean, I think Hugo would be just happy to make the podium, but the speed that he's shown this afternoon in race one was exceptional. I know he had a bit of a coming together with Bradley Kent. That was on the last lap, so he had a bit of a side-to-side barging match, I think, and it didn't go in his favour, unfortunately. So, yeah, he might want to replicate his speed and turn those positions round. Let's see what happens.
The championship gap came down a little bit last time out for Lewis Kent. He came here with a 52-point lead. It's gone down to 46 now between him and Max Hart. So Max scoring second place points, and Lewis Kent coming home in 5th position. So he will rather 4th, but where did Lewis finish? No, it was 3rd in the end, according to the reverse grid, behind Max Hart and ahead of Dan Kirby. But nevertheless, Max outscoring Lewis Kent in his Hyundai i30. They start, of course, in very similar cars, but from different teams. The number 38 Lewis Kent car prepared by Essex and Kent Motorsport, whereas the Maximum Motorsport Max Hart in the 101 car. Bruce Winfield's Cupra from Area Motorsport, as Paul has mentioned. Here's the grid in full 40 extra kilos for company for Bradley Kent. The times, by the way, the 20.5 minutes is actually the race time from earlier on. So Kent starts from pole alongside Hugo Cook's Audi RS3. Then it's Lewis Kent and Dan Kirby. Max Hart and Bruce Winfield finished second and first, respectively. Will Butler with 30 kilograms for company in the Cupra, sported by the Power Maxed Car Care Racing team. Starting ahead of Jack Depper, Alex Kaitu had to spend those 10 extra seconds on the grid earlier on today. Well, don't have to worry about this time around. Jack Constable, a heavy car for him this weekend. Another Power Max offering, though, in a Cupra, 60 extra kilos for Jack. And Danny Crivet should be starting in 11th, but Paul reckons that car, sadly, is out now for this second race because of the mechanical woes of Danny, but nevertheless substantial steps made this weekend in terms of pace, which he can carry on into Donington Park. 2.1 miles around this place, a little over 3 kilometres, up and down Dale. You get battered by the weather, but actually the weather conditions haven't been too bad this weekend.
And I'm just looking, and I know now why the grid is as it was, because it was supposed to be Hugo Cook on pole, but because Hugo had contact with number 44 Bradley Kent, Bradley got put down to 6th, Hugo put up to 5th, and Lewis Kent remained in 4th, or was put up to 4th. That's why the grid is a bit weird looking compared to what we've seen as the race 1 result.
It's rather shuffled around. So Hugo Cook was due to be on pole position after he finished on the road in 6th place, but some changes, but that's the order as we call it, with Bradley Kent and Hugo Cook on the front row. The red lights are on now, and we're about to get the latest round 11 of the Maximum Networks Volkswagen Racing Cup underway, and a killer start there for Bruce around the outside, and he tried to pick off a number of positions in Winfield. Car straight on, though. Was that Hugo?
Hugo Cook straight on. I don't know what went on there, whether he's caught the grass and just had no grip and gone straight. He'll be in the lead.
Well, if he turned right at that point, he would have been, but thankfully he slammed on the brakes to make sure he didn't all of a sudden arrive at Church Corner at the most ridiculous angle, and he's stuck there on the grass. What real disappointment for Hugo Cook, starting in 2nd position, but it was a great getaway, pointed out by you, Paul, from Bruce Winfield from 6th position. He tried to do everybody round the outside, didn't quite come off, but he did gain places, as now into Rocket for the first time the 2 Kent cars. Bradley Kent ahead of Lewis Kent, already out front. And are they going to give this position up now? It's a great position for the family crew to be in, with in 3rd position Dan Kirby in the blue and white Cupra.
Yeah, lots of shuffling around. Bradley just got quite a lot of oversteering that car. You see the front end of the car twitching, the rear end trying to follow it round. But I'm not too sure what happened to Hugo, but it was a car with one of those cars, maybe around 5th or 6th place, made contact with him and he had nowhere to go and went straight on. So don't know if he's had a puncture or what, but look at this. Oh, these cars now coming now 2 abreast. That's Dan Kirby trying to defend from Max Hart. Bruce Winfield down the inside of Max Hart. Job done, and he's up another place, and now he's just got to get past Dan Kirby for 3rd place.
So Winfield, wasting no time at all. And Max Hart, who'd been spending the first 2 or 3 laps of race 1 today trying to get in front of Bruce Winfield, now will have to do all the same thing again, as Lewis Kent, not quite having the same sort of speed as Bradley Kent, who has won races already this year. He's starting to stretch away, and his older brother acting almost as a rear gunner here to keep Dan Kirby and everybody else behind.
Oh, it looks like Kirby's got the run, but he'll be on the outside for Rocket. If he gets this done early doors, that's a great pass. He's got to shut the door, because Lewis just drives down the inside of him, pushes him wide. Winfield will love the look of that. Dirty tyres and contact! Oh, big contact. There's got to be damage on the front left of Kirby's car. Oh, dear me, that's a nightmare. There's definitely got to be contact. That was a big hit, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it depends on how much damage, as you say, that's done to the car's internals. One to benefit from that was Max Hart, who's up a position, and Dan Kirby now running in 2nd place, then behind Bradley Kent. And the fight's all about 2nd position as Bruce Winfield tries to go level with the rear wheels of Dan Kirby. Now he's going to try around the other side. Can he get it stopped before they hit each other? Yes. But Kirby's going to have to go a little bit wide out of the hairpin as as a result. Now he's got the left-hand side of the track as they head down towards the final corner. This is brutal in the early stages, Paul.
It really is, and I think Lewis Kent is wounded. I'm telling you now, that car had a big hit. That 38 had a big hit. But the person who is in the pound seats here is Bradley Kent, out in front, miles ahead. And that car there that you're looking at now, the number 4, Dan Kirby, who was in cahoots there with Kent when they made contact. The front left of that car does not look healthy. That will have definitely knocked the geometry of that suspension out.
The big loser, of course, was Lewis Kent in a heavy car anyway, leading the championship by 46 points, but he's got an extra 40 kilos all day strapped into that car, and he's now down in 6th, having been in 2nd position and right behind brother Bradley. So Dan Kirby now, also a race winner this year, running in 2nd ahead of Bruce Winfield with the success earlier today. Max Hart comes next, then Jack Constable in the Power Max yellow and white colours, and then you got Lewis Kent very much on a recovery drive just out of shot to the left. But this could very easily be the battle for the lead. In fact, it's not. It's for 2nd position. Kirby having to drive a very wide Cooper indeed. And a brief glimpse there of the Alex Kite Vauxhall Astra from Maximum Motorsport, all white car. He's ahead of Will Butler, and there's been a change around there with Jack Depper. No, Will Butler still ahead of Jack Depper, and then Hugo Cook. It's side by side. Kirby on the inside, and on his outside, Bruce Winfield. What about the speed of the final corner?
Oh, he's tried it. He's not going to get away with that, is he? Oh, another hit on the front right this time of Dan Kirby's car, still on the inside. Winfield gives it up by the looks of it. I'll tell you what, that was side by side, and it was never going to work. They're still side by side. Winfield still thinking about going down the inside of the hairpin, can't make it stick. Dan Kirby keeps P3, just runs wide.
Winfield was ahead at the line. If the race had ended there, he would have got 2nd, but Kirby had the road position to get back in front, and as you quite rightly say, still in 2nd position at Church.
Oh, massive
huge
moment.
Wiggle.
Oh, do you see that? I've spoken to him about that. The rear of that car, you can always see light underneath it. It's so heavy on the front, and the rear wheels just pick up any time it sees a corner. But look at this now. Constable has come from nowhere. He's having a look. He started at the back of the grid.
Tapping on the back of Winfield's car, so he's got the jump on Max Hart, who is actually driving a slightly lighter car. Constable's got the 60 kilos for company, Max Hart only 40. And remember, Max trying to stay as close as possible to Lewis Kent. He wants to finish ahead of him to score more championship points in this race as well. Dan Kirby out of the left-hander at Corkscrew and down Tom Price straight. But there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cars on a long line for 2nd position. And Kirby again a little loose coming out of the hairpin. That will allow Winfield right by, in fact. He blew past him as if he wasn't there.
Yeah, straight past him, and this is where there's a lot. Oh no! Massive moment down the inside. That's got to be some kind of failure. Why would that car not stop? Interesting. Is that something to do with the damage, or has he caught the grass on the way in? But Kirby well out of it now, as you can see. Winfield up to P2. This is going to be an unbelievable weekend for him. And can he catch the leader? 4.5 seconds. There's a long time to go yet. He could do it.
This 37 Cooper from Area Motorsport has been a rocket ship all day. Proved in free practice this morning, proved in qualifying as well. And I wouldn't, like you say, wouldn't put him against the fact that he might be able to reel in the race leader. He's got enough time to do it. Jack Constable's not very far away either in the number 11 car, up to 3rd position. And then it is Irishman Max Hart tucked in behind in the eggshell blue Hyundai.
Very interesting stuff, this. I mean, I don't know what happened to Kirby back there, but he's still on track. He's down in 7th as they cross the line, but I think he was even further behind than that, to be honest. We'll have to wait till see and they come back across the line. But I'm going to keep an eye on the sector times, because Bruce Winfield in the 37, he's got a sniff now, because look at that. He has dropped Constable and the pack. And then Max Hart flashing again in the 101. He needs that plate. He needs as many places as he can get, whilst his wounded competitor is quite far down the field in the form of Lewis Kent.
Bradley Kent looking to try and extend the gap as quickly as he can. He set the best lap of the race on lap 4, a 1:32.3. So, yes, we'll keep our eyes peeled for Winfield's speed and whether he can go even faster than that. He's certainly checked out from the third place fight, which is between the power-maxed Car Care Racing Cooper of Jack Constable, heavy car that, then Max Hart in his Hyundai from Maximum Motorsport, and a team run out of the same stable, his Alex Kite's Astra tucked in behind us now to the right on the approach to Church when Max Hart trying to unsettle Jack Constable, and has worked to a degree. Constable by no means going the ideal line through that right-hander that takes them onto this back curve, if you like, that we have here at Anglesey.
Yeah, well, tell you what, the move is definitely going to be on pretty soon. Max Hart, big sideways, Max Hart. What, is there something down there? Because they all went sideways. And now Kite into the back of Hart, Hart into the back of Constable. Wow, there must be something down there. They were all sliding.
That is either oil or it's just the amount of dirt that's been brought onto the track in the last couple of laps, because let's face it, hardly anybody has been sticking to the racetrack. They're all trying to get past one another. And now Alex Kite, whether he likes it or not, is embroiled in this huge fight in fifth position. That little Astra being almost overshadowed by the Hyundai in front and the Hyundai behind as well. Around the outside will go Will Butler in, and that's Lewis Kent in the 38 car trying to gain places too. I tell you, from Bruce Winfield's point of view, this is the best place for him to be, because he's not involved in this 5-car schmozzle, let's say, into the final corner.
A schmozzle, I think it is, isn't it? Look, Lewis Kent he's just been beaten out the corner. Kite down the inside in the Opel Astra TCR. Oh, he's done him as well. Good lad.
Yeah.
Fair play.
Very good move that indeed. So, yeah, still in fifth position, but ahead of Lewis Kent, who's been pushed all the way, almost literally, by Dan Kirby, who's in a quick car this weekend. We just don't quite know what happened to him a few laps ago into the final corner that made him run out over the grass. So Constable, Hart, then a bit of a gap back to Alex Kite in the Astra. And there's more tyre smoke from the back of his car as he slows into Rocket, and then Lewis Kent ahead of Dan Kirby.
Wow, a bit of attrition here, I'd say. I mean, Kite's car's smoking, isn't it? That left rear, I think that's just bodywork rubbing on the left rear tyre. Any compression that we see around the circuit, tyre pushing into the bodywork, maybe down the hill as we come down to towards the Tom Price straight, we might see a bit more smoke, but Bruce Winfield has dropped them like they are hot. But in turn, I've got to say, Bradley Kent's pace out front is absolutely sublime. Yeah,
it's good because it's a tenth of a second faster than Winfield can offer at the moment, so slowly and surely Bradley Kent is opening up the gap and getting closer and closer to another victory for 2021. Got a bit of time to go yet, though. Still 14 minutes left on the clock in this extended race distance compared to earlier on. Bruce Winfield will whip across the line very shortly indeed. Has he managed to go a little faster this time? Yes. 0.1 of a second faster. Needs to be closing the gap at a higher rate than that, though, if he's going to nibble away at 4.5 seconds in the next best part of 15 minutes. Jack Constable under huge pressure from, well, 4 cars, essentially. Max Hart, Alex Kite, Lewis Kent and Dan Kirby all in that train. Will Butler and Jack Depper aren't very far from one another either, after Hugo Cook pitted in the early stages in his Audi.
Yeah, that's very tight, that train. Constable P3 all the way down to Kirby in P7. It's very, very close, isn't it? Oh.
Again, they're going so deep into Rocket as Max Hart uses plenty of the grass on the inside of Rocket. There was a car off in the foreground and
Kirby.
huge smoke from Jack Constable's car as well. That looked more to be maybe smoke from body rub. Yeah, it is. It's body rub smoke rather than a tyre issue now on the back of the Constable car. Rear right is the problem, I would say.
Oh, bumper into the rear of Constable's car. Let's see. That is a lot of smoke. I tell you what, that is not good. And down the inside, Max Hart, will he turn in? No, thinks better of it. And Kite is going to have a sniff of this. Kite's already smoking his front left. Everyone's having a smoke here.
Well, that for Kite, it seems to be just the weight of the car as it transfers, you get the smoke. Jack Constable's Well, the smoke signals seem to have lessened slightly, but again, through certain corners, you get an awful lot of it coming from the rear right Goodyear tyre. That's more than I would want to see with 12 minutes of this race still to go. He's lost a place, more smoke coming from that tyre again out of turn 1. Oh. Big pressure now from Alex Kite and Lewis Kent behind in car 38.
Yeah, a lot of smoke for those two cars there. So Constable and Kite in the 97 smoking away. The other thing I was going to say, Dan Kirby it was that flew across the top of Rocket and rejoined on the grass just out of our shot. So a lot going on in the middle of this pack. Kite on the brakes late. Oh, and even later on the brakes is the 38 Lewis Kent trying to regain position. Doesn't look like that big knock in the right rear of that car from Dan Kirby earlier on. Doesn't seem to have done him any bad, really, is it?
No. 8th position. What are his lap times like? 1:39 last time around. That is about 6 seconds off the absolute pace being produced by Bradley Kent and Bruce Winfield at the moment. But Kent was again faster than Winfield on the previous lap, so he's opened up further 0.3 of a second. Good sector on that lap for Max Hart, though, who's got a bit of clear air in front of him now. So he got past the ailing Jack Constable and is now starting to extend the gap. The problem for him is that Bruce Winfield's probably just a bit too far in front with the amount of time still left in the race. Touching the curb on the exit of turn 1 was the race leader there, Bradley Kent. 40 kilos will take its toll after a little while with the extra 5 minutes to do in the second race of the day. Bruce Winfield just needs to concentrate now on producing, again, qualifying pace if that's possible. 1:32.5, his best. He was about a second away from that last time around. Yeah,
such a tight battle, that third, all the way down to 6th. It's a lot going on in the middle of that pack. It's like covered by nearly just over a second, so a lot going on. Bradley Kent, though, has been, as he always is when he's out the front, he's just unbelievable. Doesn't put a foot wrong. Quiet kid, just gets on with the task in hand, and this should be a nice little win for him, I reckon. And in the pits, has Hugo Cook made it back? I just heard a car on my earphones.
Yeah, close to the pits. Yeah. Well, Hugo, I think, has been in the pits for a little while now, so not necessarily him, but it may have been somebody else in the race, leaving it very late on the brakes as they headed past our FX microphones.
Might be Depper, mightn't it?
It could be Depper in the pits, yes, now. Quite possibly.
Oh, who's that? Who's this on the...
That's one of the two high on. Is that Max Hart is the next big question. And if not, then I don't know who it is. Maybe Lewis Kent, but I think it's more likely to be Max. Did he cross the line? Well, there goes Bruce Winfield. We're now waiting to see...
It must be. It's
got to be him.
It's the only factory coloured. And look at the front right on Alex Kite's car. He's done and dusted. The Opel Astra TCR heads for the pits as well.
So Max Hart no longer in the race. Lewis Kent in 3rd position and scoring massive points compared to Max's championship rival. Will Butler thinks, what on earth's just gone on in front of me? I'm 4th. Dan Kirby 5th. This is the battle coming into the hairpin now for 4th.
Oh, and Dan Kirby just looks like a torpedo every time I see him into the hairpins. He really is having it today, isn't he? Any chance he's got, and he's down the inside. He's gone from like 3rd to 2nd to 58th, back up to 6th, and now he's running in 5th, trying to put pressure on Will Butler, who's having a great run for 4th.
Well, we were concerned about some contact earlier on in the race for people like Jack Constable. For Max Hart to a degree. There's more contact now as Dan Kirby just about gets his number 4 car stopped, but not without a tag into the back of Butler. Now gets the overlap and should have the inside line for Peel. Great overtake.
Great overtake. That was great. No contact initially. There was a touch of contact, but that was nothing to do with contact, that pass. That was absolutely brilliant. Round the outside, though. Will's having another go. No, he'll have to come out of it. Max Hart's stricken car, the 101. I wonder what on earth has gone on there. That's unbelievable. A lock-up from Will Butler behind Dan Kirby. This race has had it all.
Very mysterious retirement for young Irishman Max Hart, sadly. And the almost factory livery, as you say, for the Hyundai i30N. And a race winner at the start of the year, Max Hart, but he hasn't since stepped onto the top step of the podium. And won't do in this one either. Bradley Kent, on the other hand, has already tasted the champagne on 2 separate occasions, and he's won. Well, if he manages to seal this one, he'll have won at 3 different circuits. And it shows he can be strong on very different configurations up and down the UK. But, speaking too soon there's still 7 minutes to go as Brad turns right at the second bit of Rocket. And the short, sharp run into Peel Corner, leading by nearly 5 seconds over Bruce Winfield second. Lewis Kent now up to 3rd position, ahead of Dan Kirby and Will Butler in 5th.
Yeah, so again, I'm so impressed with Winfield. If he ends up with a 1st and a 2nd from this weekend, that is just unbelievable for the car he's in, and up against the might of all the other teams and all the other drivers out there. So really looking good for him, and he's only like nearly under 5 seconds away from the race leader, so he's got to keep putting the pressure on, and the headlights are ablaze, or the daytime running lights are ablaze. Yeah. So at least he's showing Brad that he is still there as he comes now down into that final turn.
I don't know whether Bruce has done many laps around this Anglesey circuit, but sometimes you arrive at a new venue and you just get it from the start of the day, and that's definitely been the case for Bruce Winfield in the Cupra, because the free practice times lit up the screen bright and early this morning, and he's kind of never looked back. Yes, his starting position wasn't in his favour, but it was a great getaway. I mean, he nearly did about 4 cars before turn 1, but then I think probably had to get out of the throttle as Jack Constable went straight on, didn't he, at the start of the race? Hugo Cook, rather, it was, in the Audi that did that. And straight to the pit lane he would go. Oh no, big disappointment for Alec Kite, who's now just gone into the pit lane in the Vauxhall Astra that had been going very sweetly indeed. He was up to, well, 5th place certainly, but pits it at the end of lap 12.
Yeah, he had a front right puncher as they were coming down that straight. So he'll be
yes,
and he'll be finished now. So a real shame. So really, only 6 cars left in this battle. It's been a rate of attrition, hasn't it?
It has rather, and yeah, that's the kind of undulating nature of this Anglesey circuit. Serrated curbs, as we've talked about at various points in the day. If you catch them wrongly, then that can cause a puncture. But also, I mean, the reverse grid meant that nobody could waste any time, in the tail of somebody else. You had to start to scrap from the off, and often that can result in some unwanted contact. Still think it was fair racing, everyone just trying to find space for one another, and Bradley Kent really got his head down and made sure he wasn't involved in any of it, and this is his reward so far. Beautiful line into the banking, and this will be his 14th lap. Still just a little under 5 minutes to go, but he has nearly a 5-second lead over Bruce Winfield.
Yeah, all looking pretty sound, all looking nice and steady. His brother as well, Lewis, in 3rd place. There's nothing he can do to help him out. I don't think he would help him out. The championship is probably still on for Bradley Kent in his head, even though he's probably quite a few points behind, but still. They'll be battling to the very end, I think, the brothers, and yeah, fair play to them. That's how it should be.
Jack Constable at the moment lapping faster than Will Butler, so there may be a change for 5th late on in this. Jack's had a real up and down race, and it may be that the contact to the rear of his car, the Power Max car, did a bit too much damage to the rear tyre. I'm impressed that it's not resulted in a puncture, and still holding firm. They build these Goodyear tyres very toughly indeed, and may get into the top 5 by the close of this. It's Bruce Winfield heading down Tom Price Straight. Again, that very late turning point into the hairpin, which seems to be favoured by most. So the late apex, which gives you the better straight line run and the haul out of the corner.
It does look like the cars are starting to really struggle with the lateral loads that they're putting into the tyre as the 3 minutes to go. There's no more oversteer where the front end's got so much bite, the rear has to follow it round. It's now the opposite way round. The rear tyres seem to have more grip than the front, so the cars are not turning as much as they would like them to as a driver as the inputs are put into the steering. But Butler just in the 71 there, isn't he? Sorry, Butler's in that car there. That's number 70, Butler. And Jack Constable is right on him, just like you called.
Yeah, so I think Jack's going to be quicker again, by 1.3 seconds. You don't really need a timing screen anymore because Jack's car is nice and wide coming out of turn 1. So 2 Cupras going hard at it late in the day. The flipstick-backed car of Will Butler. And this is Jack Constable's opportunity. But no, doesn't fancy it into church. That would have been brave, I have to say, if he'd pulled that one off.
Fair play to Butler, though, because he could just roll over and let him past here. You know, they're teammates, and yeah, he's not having any of it. He's defending for his life, and fair play to him.
Well, they're operated from the same team, as you say, Power Max Car Care Racing, but definitely out for their own independent results. But Will Butler just can't quite extract the speed as well as young Jack is doing behind. He's got a heavier car compared to Will. Will's only on 30 kilos for the day as they head into Peel, the right-hander. But for some reason, Will's car just didn't quite pick up the speed, so he has to clamp the car to the left-hand side into the corkscrew to make sure that Constable doesn't wriggle up the inside, but he's on the back foot again here, Paul.
He really is. This is going to be the last of the late breakers, and I'd be getting underneath him on the way out. Oh, no, he's both brake too late. Loads of terminal round the outside. Butler has got a false neutral. Butler has stopped. Oh, disaster for Butler. He just couldn't get the traction out of the corner, and something in the drivetrain has stopped that car. What a shame.
Yeah, just something didn't pick up. Either a drive shaft's gone bang or something similar, but there's just no power all of a sudden coming out at the hairpin, and it's denied us a fight all the way to the flag. And there's also similar problems, is there, for...
Oh, Bradley Kent!
No, that's Lewis. That was Lewis Kent coming out of the bank. Brad's all right. But what about the championship leader? Was he slow coming out of the banking? Or was that just a...
We need to see. We need to see what's happened to Lewis Kent.
It was a weird line to be using coming out of that corner.
It looked like he'd run out of fuel. He was shaking the car. Where is he? Where's the third place man?
Don't tell me they've fueled it for a 20-minute race and it's 25.
What has gone on? We need to see the 38 car of Lewis Kent.
98.6 miles per hour through the first trap when you should be doing 125.
Who's that? No, that's Butler, isn't it?
That's Butler in the 70 car. But what about the 38? Is that still dead stick? 10 seconds left on the clock. Bradley Kent still in a good position to take his third race win of the year. It's going to be close, towards the line. I think maybe he does get the checkered flag this time around. So that is confirmed that Bradley Kent takes the victory. Second position to Bruce Winfield was also pretty slow across the line.
Slow across the line.
Are they all genuinely running out of fuel here?
Well, that's Butler on the grass on the right-hand side.
After the start line.
I would love to see if we see Winfield get back to the pits, because if he doesn't, that is a real bizarre one. But where is Bradley Kent?
Kirby across the line to finish third.
What?
So Lewis Kent does not finish third. Is he going to finish the race? Jack Constable home in fourth position. So it's Kent, Bradley.
There he is.
There's Lewis across the line now in fifth, losing 2 places on that final lap. What was his final sector like? A 1:14, lost 11 seconds on that second portion of the lap. And you called it right at the start of the final tour. He was slow out of the banking.
Wow.
25 miles per hour slower through the trap and loses 2 positions.
That was bizarre. So as it stands, 5 cars crossed the finish line. I mean, the rate of attrition, it looked to me like it was an intermittent fuel problem, which to me, that's why he was going left to right, wiggling the car to see if he could get fuel into one of the...
fuel pump, maybe, or...
could be a fuel pump.
Not just drawing it from the tank correctly. Like you say, as it sloshes around, though...
they're not stupid, that team,
though.
That
and as soon as you think no power, quick, shake the car from left to right to make sure that the pump's getting as much fuel to the engine as possible.
Unbelievable. What a race from Dan Kirby.
Yeah.
And thumbs up there from Bruce Winfield asking him if he wants to lift back. That is old school. That is a full-on Nigel Mansell, Ayrton Senna-esque picture, that, isn't it?
Silverstone, was that? Yeah. Has he refused? He said, no, you're all right,
yeah,
mate.
He's probably said, I've got to stay.
I've got an Uber.
I've got to stay here, mate. I only live across the sea, lad.
I'll swim home.
He's not Welsh.
No, I know.
Right.
I'll practice that.
I'm going to go and get them locked down in the interview in Solcast.
Well, you'll have plenty to talk about. Yeah, we'll catch those interviews on social media, and I cannot wait to see So all the stories that come out of that, because we thought, that race had developed into a pattern at half distance. And everyone was not exactly taking it easy, but had found their level in the race, and it was just a matter of just guiding your cars home. And then all of a sudden, was that cars running out of fuel, or was it more a pickup problem? Oh, Jack Depper on the grass as well. Well, we talked about Jack heading into retirement, and sadly the same story for Max Hart. 2 pit lane visitors, being Hugo Cook early on and Alex Kite with the puncture as well. And of all the starters we had, only 5 make it to the finish. I sense that the conversations in Parc Fermé might well run deep into the night somehow. But let's congratulate Bradley Kent for a 3rd victory of the season in his Hyundai i30N TCR, and well done to Essex and Kent Motorsport for preparing a really supersonic 44 car this weekend. Likewise to Bruce Winfield and the Area Motorsport Run Cupra, because I think Bruce, this is going to be a defining weekend for him moving forward to Donington Park. Could he continue this fabulous run of podium results? Bradley Kent, 40 kilos strapped on board, but it didn't seem to matter. A 3rd victory of the season, ahead of Bruce Winfield in 2nd position, and Dan Kirby, possibly the most surprised of them all, to finish in 3rd position. Jack Constable 4th. Lewis Kent, unbelievably, the final finisher, ahead of Will Butler, who suffered difficulties late on and did not complete the race. He got 15 laps to his name, whereas the winners got 16. Alex Kite finished in the pit lane with a puncture. There were retirements for Max Hart and for Jack Depper, and it was an early pit lane visit for Hugo Cook. As far as the points are concerned, the championship changes read as such. Lewis Kent now moves to 234 points. Dan Kirby, 2nd in the championship on 181. Bradley Kent, after that win, 178 points ahead of Bruce Winfield, who's really scored well today. 172 for Bruce. And Max Hart drops to 5th in the championship on 171, so 2nd to 5th after a couple of races today. Don't forget that the final 3 races of the season take part at Donington Park in Leicestershire on the 30th of August. So you really haven't got much time to wait until then. I make that 3 weeks, 3 weeks and a day, because it's held on the bank holiday Monday, and you can join us for all of those races being live streamed in the usual places. What an entertaining day it's been here at Anglesey. From Paul O'Neill, who's now busy interviewing drivers for our social media feed, and from Johnny Palmer, we will see you at Donington Park. Bye-bye.